All right, guys, back in the garage. It's now Wednesday, the 19th of January, 2022, just coming up to 6 p.m. And I thought I'd come out and do a quick power hour project out here prior to dinner. And first off, I wanted to thank you all for watching and commenting on the previous video, what I called the arts and crafts video. And that was the painting of the gear shift knob to make it sort of a faux wood look. And lots of comments, some positive, some negative, some neutral. It's all good as long as it's constructive criticism. I don't mind comments at all. And everybody was playing nice, let's say. So the jury's still out on what we're going to do as far as that knob is concerned, whether Doc will want to keep that, or I sent him a few other options for some solid wood knobs, some Nardi knobs, which would actually match the wheel as well for him to consider. So again, jury's still out. We'll come back and we'll revisit that at a later date. It's very minor. Obviously that knob just pulls off and another one would push on in its place. So we're not going to worry about it right now, but we thought we would do the project anyway. It's done, and we'll move on from there. So as mentioned, we're going to do a power hour out here tonight. Let's discuss what we're going to do. Guys, if you've been following my videos along, or if you're a Alfa aficionado, let's say, you'll know that this car came from the factory with mechanical fuel injection, and there you can see the fuel injection unit there. This is called a Spica fuel injection unit. I don't remember what the Spica stands for. Somebody will probably put it in the comments. It's some long Italian, and I've forgotten it, or long forgotten it as well. So there is the mechanical fuel pump, and we're going to talk about removing and checking the thermostatic actuator. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but you can see that sort of bulb-looking thing with the tube or the pipe coming off of it and going upwards towards the manifold here. And you can just see it entering the intake manifold there, and it's actually senses the coolant within the intake manifold. That is called the thermostatic actuator. All right, I'm going to try to explain exactly what the thermostatic actuator does on this car, and it's a very important piece to have operating properly. So as you can see, there is a probe in the intake manifold, and that is sensing, or will sense, coolant temperature. So there is a probe in the bottom of this bulb down here that goes into the actual Spica pump, or the Spica body itself, and it has a little center pin that pushes out depending on the temperature of the engine. So when the engine is cold, the pin is all the way in, which enriches the fuel for a cold start, and as the car warms up, this pin or protrusion moves out and actually changes the mixture of the Spica pump and doesn't make it so rich. So it basically leans it out as the temperature rises. So that is the functionality of the thermostatic actuator to the best of my ability to describe it. So these fail apparently quite often. Just reading Wes Ingram's book, and Wes Ingram is an expert on the Spica pump. He says that these thermostatic actuators, or TAs as he calls them, have somewhere around a 5 to 6 year shelf life. So we're going to pull this out carefully, and we're going to check to see if this works. There's a process to check it, and that is going to be the subject of tonight's video. Now, some of you might recall from a previous video when I had Alin here helping me with the steering column, we wanted to check the cold start solenoid, or the CSS as it's called. So there is another solenoid operated valve, let's call it, piston, that operates when the starter is engaged to also enrich in the mixture. So there's two types of enriching of the Spica pump in order to get the car up and running. So that is the cold start solenoid, and you can see it probably there just behind the thermostatic actuator with the black wire coming from it. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. I know it's very difficult to see in there. Trust me, it's difficult to work in there. All right, one more thing before we move on from that cold start solenoid. We did test it in one of the previous videos, and it does seem to be operating as it should. So that led us to suspect that the thermostatic actuator might be bad, and that's why we're going to take that out and test it. Let's get this thing undone. So as far as I understand, there are two nuts up here that hold that tube into the intake manifold. There's a couple of nuts that hold a bracket or a steady bracket. You might be able to see it down there, maybe not. So those have to come off, and then there are two screws that hold the unit into the body of the speaker pump. So very tight here with this here, unfortunately. The plenum is kind of in the way, but we'll work around it the best we can. Wish me luck. Patience is a virtue. With a lot of patience, we were able to get those two nuts off. You can see a little bit of the coolant weeping. I did drain some of the coolant out, but probably still going to be a little bit weeping out of here. Pretty hard to get a ratchet socket on those two nuts because there's not enough clearance between the sender body and the nut to get a socket on there. So we kind of went carefully, slowly with an open-ended box wrench. I have no idea how I'm going to get it back on there, but at least we got the two nuts off. So we've got the center bracket undone, so that just leaves those two screws in the body of the pump way down there that you can't see. So we're going to go after those now. So let me grab a screwdriver and see if we can get those two out. Hopefully they'll go easier than the top two. And we should be able to just lift that unit out, assuming it's not seized into the intake manifold. A big shout out to Wear Tools again for sometimes the simplest things. Again, the screwdriver magnetizer came in handy, along with my Wear Tools, to get this screw out from the body of that speaker pump. I couldn't even see it. I was unscrewing it blindly. Magnetized the screwdriver before, and I was able to pick up the screw and the lock washer from the top of that pump. It is really tight down there. So again, Wear Tools to the rescue. All right, guys, we got the thermostatic actuator out of the car successfully and managed not to bend things up. Looks like immediately I can see, I think there's going to be an issue with this. I believe even while this is cold, it should have something sticking out the end here, a bit of a protuberance. I think it's supposed to be sticking out at least 5 millimeters if I'm not mistaken, but we're going to take it inside, we're going to play around with it, we're going to take some measurements, and we're going to do a little bit of testing just for fun. But I'm pretty sure this is going to turn out to be a bad unit that needs to be rebuilt. And these are not exactly inexpensive. Last time I checked, I think they're around $385 US, plus a core charge, of course. So you have to send your core in. I think the core was $75, or could be more than that, but it's $385 basically for a new one of these US. So let's go ahead and test it inside anyway, just for fun, and we'll bring you back in a few minutes. All right, we're inside on the coffee table, and we're just about to start testing this TA. And hopefully I can get you into shot here. So here it is on the coffee table. We've just got some hot water here in a container behind us, and we're just about to test this by dipping the end that go into the intake manifold. So this end, where's the camera here? This end would go into the intake. So that is going to go into the hot water, and we're going to observe what happens to the actual stick out on the actuator itself. So I already know this is suspect because this should actually be sticking out right now at room temperature, and it's not. It's actually inside the recess right now. So at room temperature, the stick out on this from the flange here, this flange piece, should be 23 to 25 millimeters. And if I just take a quick measurement with my ruler, I can tell you that it's only right now, and like I said, it's even within the bore, but at the end of the bore, it's 18 millimeters. So right now, obviously we know we have an issue right from the get-go. Let's stick it in the water and see if that comes out at all. And we'll take a little bit of maybe a time lapse of this. So we're sticking the sender end of it, and let's see if this will actually start to stick out at all. Let me just try to position this where I can get the camera looking at that without damaging this thing here. Maybe have to get a deeper container. Oh, it's actually coming out. I'll just hold it here. Maybe I'll try to focus in a little bit. So you can see that coming out. I think you can anyway. So we'll just let it sit here in this hot water for a period of time, and we'll see how far that will actually come out of the recess. That's all I'm going to get out of this thermostatic actuator. All right, we're just going to do a quick measurement here of the stick out after we've had it sitting in the water for a period of time. I'm not sure if you can see that on the camera, but there is the stick out. As mentioned, this should be 28 to 31 millimeters. I can guarantee you it's nowhere near that. So we are at 22 millimeters, so way out of spec. So we're definitely in the market for a new TA. So we'll have to send this away to be rebuilt. Again, this will be a core. So we'll send this away to be rebuilt and get it back from the US, hopefully in a fairly short amount of time. But we'll get this boxed up and sent off. I will talk about one other option. You can actually replace this thermostatic actuator with something else called a Sure Start. I'll come back. All right, I just wanted to do a quick talk about this Sure Start replacement for the stock thermostatic actuator. So this is more like I'm going to call it a manual choke type option, where it's actually cable. So there's a cable system that would run through the bulkhead of the car up to a lever. And here is a better shot of the lever. This lever would be mounted inside the car, usually along the one of the kick panels, obviously on the driver's side, in reach, either on the center console or on the outside kick panel. And what you would do is you'd either pull up or push down the lever to start the car. So obviously the car needs a rich condition to start. So this would activate the Sure Start mechanism. And going back here is the mechanism here. So that would fit in the actual pump body and replace this piece here. And it would move this pin up and down to activate within the speaker pump to enrich it or to lean it, depending on the engine or the running conditions. So that's just another option to consider if you're looking for a budget fix. But obviously it's a manual option, and obviously some guys prefer that. Most guys don't. I think they want to have sort of a worry-free. Once this is replaced, you don't have to do anything but jump in the car and turn the key. It's a bit more expensive proposition to fix it with the stock unit, but that's probably the way to go. But I just wanted to point that out, that this Sure Start option is available. All right, guys, that's it for tonight. Just wanted to make this quick video to show you the thermostatic actuator and to show you how we tested it. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, and thanks as always for watching, commenting, and subscribing. We will see you out in the garage tomorrow.